Hey everyone, and welcome to Monday Musing 39, I think, believe it or not. So here we are, and I'm not alone tonight. Last week we had Pink joining me, and tonight we've got a double special surprise with Sam and Pink. So, Sam, do you want to say hello?
Hello.
Pink, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping everybody can hear okay. Everybody who's tuning in, do us a favour and just let us know whether everything's okay. Amit's already in the chat telling everybody to like and subscribe, which we would love you to do, by the way, so thank you very much. It's just tonight, main subject is probably the last pre-Age of Sigmar rumour mill video, because we're kind of saying we wanted to do a recap of what we're hoping for, what we're expecting from the new edition, but by the time we get round to next week, I think it's kind of like well known, Games Workshop have released so much information now, and we're going to be hearing more and more over the next few weeks, so I think by then we're into the full details. So for us, it's not like every show is going to be covering the news between now and then. We're pretty excited about it, but this seemed to be a good point to say, let's do one last one, because all the big announcements came out after the last Monday Musing. Myself and Pink were sat there saying what's coming up. It's pretty exciting. We've seen some of the previews, and then literally as soon as we put the phone down, there was a massive post that says, yep, it's all about Soul Wars. So let's catch up on the last of that news, see what these two wonderful people have got to say about it as well, and we'll go from there. Wes 80, I've got to pick up on this because you're absolutely right. Post-holiday Sam. We're calling him Mediterranean Sam tonight. He's got his white shirt showing off his tan. You're absolutely right, Wes 80.
Do you want to?
Do you want to show off any of the bites as well, Sam? Shark bites, were they? No, he's actually going to show some leg.
No, I've got loads and loads and loads of really red mosquito bites, and one made my hand swelled to the size of like elephant man hand. And I've been whining to everybody about it, and I had to take penicillin and antibiotics to make it go back to normal. And now I can actually close my hand, and it's not painful, so it's all good.
Bless you. And that was your painting hand as well, wasn't it, Sam?
Oh. No, it wasn't.
Oh, well, it's your model holding hand then.
It was, yeah. That? I did say to Rachel, at least it wasn't my left hand.
Right, there's a bunch of wonderful people in the chat. We've got Ralph, we've got Jim Wilson, Daryl, Al Kirkham. Good luck on your operation that's coming up, Al. Hope everything goes smoothly for you. What else have we got? Ralph Coleman, I think I've covered, and Amit is in there as well, and I'm sure there's a few more. DJ the Lucky One is joining us, and Mark Potter is in there as well. Elster Nation is saying good evening. Hey, evening Elster Nation. I was catching up on your show last night, actually. Good show, mate. I enjoyed it. And what else have we got? Matthew Edgeworth is in there saying good evening, everyone. Derpimus Maximus, it's weird. I thought you said Salmon Pink. I may have said Salmon Pink because it's my favourite. It's like your TV cool name, isn't it, when you go around together? You're Salmon Pink, I think. Brush for Hire.
It is now, yeah.
Yeah, it is. The Salmon Pink show. It'd be perfect, wouldn't it? Which, actually, talking of Salmon Pink, that's Sam's tan, really, isn't it?
Salmon Pink.
Okay, who have we got? Roa is in there as well. Brush for Hire. Kablams is saying sharks can't bite. The famous shark kicking Sam. That's true. Sam, fish beware. Is there any fish stories from your holiday at all?
I was really nice to the fish this whole holiday. I was basically just swimming around, just letting them get on with their business this time. They were quite good.
Bless you. Fish friend. Owen Jackson saying good evening all, and Scott Bile is in there, and Hoovar Thompson Boot is in there as well, and hello all, Sean Blake and Jet Set Jimbo. That's it, we're up to the chat. So I'm going to bring up the browser, and because I'm controlling the screen, I'm wondering how much of you guys can see what I'm looking at, but it doesn't really matter, does it? Let's start with I think this post, which is called The War for Souls. So we finally found out, obviously, the factions, what the Soul Wars is all about. End of age, it's end, if you like, of the Realm Gate Wars, and the malign portents have warned us that all of this stuff is coming along. And now we're into Soul Wars. So what do you think to the backing of this, guys? Have you any thoughts on this? The background story, where it's heading, the rise of the undead, Nagash coming back onto his own, quite angry about things.
I think it's quite nice for us to be seeing that death is playing quite a major role. I think when Age of Sigmar first came out, they were quite sort of ignored in favour of chaos, which made sense in the story, but it's nice, and hopefully it means death's going to get quite a bit of attention for a while at least.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was kind of wondering because I was in the local GW. Well, it would have been at the weekend actually. And I was chatting to the store manager, and we were saying when will Slaanesh get their moment in the sun? Because obviously we've moved into death now. So we're trying to work through the cycles, if you like, of how this release will go. We had Chaos in Ascendance, Chaos ruling all. Then we had the Stormcast come along. We're seeing the history of the Mortal Realms building now, aren't we? Cities being built, and even to the point now, I think, where we're going to see cities fall under the attack from the Soul Wars. So we're seeing all of this happen. And we were rushing ahead already, hungry for more, thinking, so what happens once death has had its way, once these wars have ripped across? Where next? Is this a full circle, back round to chaos on the rise again? Or do you think we'll see things like some of the factions we've not seen yet feature as part of the Soul Wars, like we saw quite a lot of factions inside the Realmgate Wars?
I think you might be right, actually. I think it would be the two factions that really haven't had much then is, like I said, Elves haven't really had anything so far, and that's quite a major set of factions who have not had any big real releases, apart from, of course, Sylvaneth. And then you've also got Slaanesh, and the Soul Wars would be a good backup to sort of then say Slaanesh breaks free, and then you maybe have a war with the Elves.
I think Slaanesh, because of where Slaanesh is at the moment, is locked up in between the two realms, isn't he? In between Shadow and Light, and it's quite key for all of the elf armies to actually come into play through Slaanesh, because they're basically just taking the souls from Slaanesh, who's captured at the moment, and then creating their armies. Like Marathi is still doing it now. She's stealing more than her fair share and building up her armies. So as soon as we see what Tyrion and Malarian are going to be doing with their stuff, I think after that Slaanesh will be released. I think we're going to see both elf armies first, though.
Yeah, okay, so you think we'll see the elf armies before we see Slaanesh?
I think so, yeah. Just because of the way that it's set up at the moment.
What other factions, I mean, outside of the two, and I think it's fairly safe to say we know there are two elf factions yet to be covered. We got essentially the High Elves under Tyrion, and we've also got the Shadow Elves. Is that it's not actually the right term, is it? But it is the Shadow Elves, because he's the god of shadow, isn't he? Which is Malarian, yeah. Is that right? Yeah,
and he's got loads of beasts. It's basically flying around his new crib right now in the Shadowlands. They've got all these giant monsters that he's hiding away from the rest of the elves. He's like, yeah, nothing to see here. Don't worry about this. I'm not doing anything nasty with my souls.
So outside of those two known elf factions, and I think those Shadow Elves, if the artwork of the Elven Pantheon is anything to go by, the Shadow Elves are just going to be insane, weird, crazy beasties. In fact, actually, I was reading a bit of background story stuff, Sam, and apparently the Terrorgeist is an undead creature from one of the animals out of the Shadow Realm. So yeah. It'd be great to see a living version of a Terrorgeist, if you like. Whatever spawned that, it would be incredible. But just as a side,
in that Karajon, your vessel being chased by the giant demon things, I think that's what the shadow creatures will be. At least one of the variants will be something like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
but I think that's it. I think that's all we're going to see. We'll see the Hell Elves, which are going to be like the shadow creatures. We'll see the Angelic Elves, which will be Tyrians, and then that will probably be it. Like, we've already got Wanderers. I don't know if they're going to do a major update on them, because, like you say, they're just focusing on Sylvaneth.
So do you think we'll see? Do you think we'll see the High Elves in the context of the Soul Wars then? Do you think? Because one thing that Games Workshop have been saying is if you're pretty excited about the Soul Wars, you haven't seen anything yet. They're pretty confident about the future of this latest release, and quite rightly so. Based on any of the recent models, you only have to go, say, Iden of Deepkin, then you see the models that are inside this set. They're insane. So I think they're right to be pretty confident about where they're going. But do you think you'll see the High Elves as, if you like, as a balancing, feature towards the end of the Soul Wars.
Or maybe even halfway through. I think we could quite easily see Nagash start to do really well with all of the Nighthorn and start to destroy loads of cities, and then maybe Tyrion and his elves will turn up and save a few cities here and there, and that might be their entry. And then Malarian might turn on Tyrion or something. There's so many ways they can go with it in the story that. And you know what? We're probably going to see all of this in the rulebook when it's released, because it's padded with background. So if they don't blatantly say what happens, then at least we're going to get some form of hint in there, which would be quite nice.
Yeah, I mean, they even talk about the elves back in, from the sort of Age of Chaos to the Age of Myth, etc., about how the elves had, a tipping of the balance against driving Nagash. Actually, they talk about the elves annoying Nagash rather to tip him over the edge, isn't it? So this is the Iden of Deepkin, keeping souls away from him and all the rest. So as far as and they mention Malaria and Tyrion, Teclis, Marathi, they talk about all of those stealing souls from Slaanesh, and that's really annoyed him. So yeah, it does seem to make sense they'll drag them into this storyline. Nagash is going to go for them, isn't he? He wants his souls back, and he wants his souls back from everybody, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's quite funny that everybody's taking them as well. Like you say, all of the elves, Sigmar, who else is there? I mean, demons, technically, they don't have souls. They just walk back to chaos, but Nagash is getting none of it. He's not getting any love. So he's probably just throwing all of his teddies out the pram and getting really upset. And I think we're going to see what Nagash can do. He's a very patient guy. He's been around for like thousands and thousands of years, and his plans basically come into fruition very later on in stuff. So maybe the end of the campaign we'll see something big happen, but I'm excited to see where they go with it. They've got so much potential, and they're doing everything right so far, so it's going to be good as far as I can see.
We've got a couple of comments in the chat. Coleman saying some birdies are saying that Slaanesh are coming next. Don't know how much of that's wishful thinking versus reality, but I think that a lot of people are expecting some movement there, aren't they, really? Matthew Edgeworth is saying, I suspect that something unforeseen will happen and all the souls gathered and they will revitalise Slaanesh. So there you go. That could make sense. And again, Matthew Edgeworth goes on to say, have you seen the rumour going around that the Mortarch of Grief might be Tyrion's daughter? I didn't even know he had a daughter. Sam, you're the elf expert.
I can't remember. Did he have a daughter with Ilariel? Was that in the old world? I think that must have been. But I don't know. I haven't seen any rumours about whether it was his daughter or not. I know there was a whole love romance thing between Tyrion and I think it was Ilariel at the time, and Teclis also fancied the same person or something like that. It's so old. I need to go back and read it. But I don't know. I think they could make new ones. They could bring old characters back.
I did notice in some of that early artwork that came out that certainly one of the images, it looked like the Stormcast Eternal was on a feathered flying creature as opposed to the Dracoff stuff. So it looked almost like a giant griffin or something like that, which I was surprised. But I'm wondering whether, because it was right in the distance, whether that was just meant to be one of the factions of men, maybe, I think.
No, isn't that one of the new models out of the starter set?
It doesn't fly, though. It doesn't have wings, does it? The new starter set model.
Maybe it's gliding. Or falling with style. Like it was.
Okay. Johnny Rockstar says, good evening all. Matthew says, Sam, do you not think this will form a new campaign book?
I think that's probably what it will be. Maybe in this core rulebook is effectively a campaign. I think the Soul Wars. I mean, what's in this actual box that's coming out? Because I've been away, obviously.
Let me catch you up, Sam. So we have, I can show an image up on screen right now. We've got the core rulebook, which has got a whole bunch of stuff. There's a sample chapter from the Soul Wars storybook. You've got cards for the miniatures. You've got surely those dice and stuff. No, that's everything that's in the new release, isn't it? But there are cards for the miniatures inside the Soul Wars box. You've also got obviously the 2 new factions, and there's quite a few models in there. I'm just trying to find out how many are in there now. But so we've got the Castigators on the Gryph-hound, Stormcast Eternal Sequitors, I'm going with. Sequitors. Nighthaunt Grave Wraith, Nighthaunt, Mayamorn Banshees, loads of stuff in there basically, but it's essentially the Nighthaunt.
Though, you said that was the first part of the Soul Wars series, so either they're going to do a novel series, which will be, well, they are doing one. It could just be a bunch of stories, or it could be an actual campaign book with rules that you can follow and play. Knowing Games Workshop with everything they've done in the past, I could quite confidently say there's going to be some form of campaign that you'll be able to follow using the rules that they're going to give you.
Yeah, I'm certainly expecting some mission types or narrative scenarios inside the rule book to match the models that you're getting, but at the same time, like you say, absolutely, I think we can expect some kind of campaign book to follow really quickly.
The problem that they have, though, is they have these global campaigns, which I think are brilliant for some people, but not for the majority, from the way that I look at it, because nobody, there's a huge amount of people who aren't necessarily ready for a campaign when they announce them or when they actually go live. And I think that's the thing that stopped me being able to take part. The idea of doing a global campaign and joining in and following the story is brilliant, but it's not always right timing-wise. Whereas if they release a campaign book and you can play through it at your own pace at a club and with mates and stuff, or we can do it on the channel and things, I think that works better. So hopefully it's going to be a campaign book and not another global campaign.
Just a bit of a heads up. What do you think? If they told you like 2 months in advance that they were going to, here's the book, in 2 months' time we kick off the global campaign.
Yeah.
I think that needs 6. 6 months.
6 months.
Sam, if you had 6 months, you'd do 3 armies in that place. You better just having 2 months and it forcing you to focus on one army, I think.
Yeah.
I think you're right though. Maybe some kind of heads up would be really useful for those. Even if you did like a tale of a million warlords, where there was like actually almost a campaign activity, a social engagement with, okay, these are going to be the factions in the campaign. Let's get your armies painted. Let's everybody get ready for it. And
I think we need to speak to GW and just say, look, we've got a forum you can use. If you want to do a tale of million gamers, everyone can create a project log and we'll track as much as we can for you, GW, because we're like that.
Yeah, well, we're hosting images. They'd appreciate that.
Exactly, yeah. They'd probably be like, yeah, you know what, let's do it. Let's just host this tale of a million wargamers.
I've just picked up a comment which I think is definitely worth picking up on, but Owen, if you can put out Wargamer Online as well, that helps me spot them. But Owen Jackson says, not a destruction player, but surely they need some love, and that's a solid point.
Yeah, I think that's very true as well. So what they've had, Iron Jaws, Bone Splitters. Not to be fair as well, Beast Claw Raiders.
Yeah, they've not done bad. They've done better than Elves, let's be honest.
Elves aren't a grand alliance, though.
Yeah, they should put Elves in their own alliance.
But Elves have had Sylvaneth and Iden of Deepkin. That's 2 factions, and one of those.
Sylvaneth are not real Elves. Stop saying this to me.
Yeah. Sam, they are. They are.
It hurts. Every time you say Sylvaneth or Elves, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe one of them.
It just upsets you because I've got an elf faction before you have.
They're not
what
elves. They're trees. They're twigs. They're firewood. They're not real elves.
Okay. All right, so anyway, I've got elves. Coleman says, Vince and Tom from Warhammer Weekly seem almost confident Slanesh would be an autumn release. October, November this week. So there you go. There's confidence out there, so let's hope so. I'd like to see it, actually. I think there's some amazing models in the Slaneshi range. I'd hate to have to paint them, though. Scott says my favourite colour is salmon pink, and Owen Jackson says Moonclan ? I'd love to see Moonclan get some proper crazy love based on that character model that was released, the little mushroom head dude.
Yeah, he's an amazing model. I think that Moonclan would be a really cool army to do.
Oh, it'd be amazing. What kind of big creatures could we have in Moonclan though? Because they've done the whole spider rider thing.
And squigs.
Giant fungus.
Fungus, just giant walking mushrooms.
You just buy scenery and then some grots.
They definitely could have like fungus scenery that sprouts up all over the table releasing spores. That would be cool. Okay, well you heard that first. Moonclans with spore scenery. Matthew Edgeworth says his daughter was sacrificed during the end times to bring Nagash back. There you go. Well then,
Why would you sacrifice? Why would you sacrifice your own daughter?
I don't think by choice.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough then.
I don't know. You know, she was a real pain.
Yeah. All right. That's a sacrifice. Oh, such a sacrifice. Bye.
I'd choose daughter number 3, the annoying one.
Yeah. The problem is, I've got all of the End Times books downstairs. I say all of them. Mike stole and Thankful off me. He didn't steal it. He asked. But I've got all of them downstairs to read, and I haven't got round to it yet because they're just huge tomes of information. And plus, when they so I got them all, and then they just deleted the world, didn't they, and restarted it. So I felt like there was no point in reading it, but there's a lot of references still back to the old world. So I think I will go back and read some of it.
It's time to get reading, Sam.
I've got a lot of reading to do.
Okay, so we've also got a couple more comments in here. Daryl says, my money is on Isabella for the Mortarch of Grief, if nothing to give the finger to Sigmar for reforging Vlad. There you go. And then there's some question marks over whether Vlad was brought back. I wasn't aware of that. But
I thought he was the guy who was holding the stick and Sigmar in the Stormcast set.
In the Stormcast set?
Yeah.
Oh, is that meant to be Vlad?
I thought he had a big banner and a skull head, and there was rumours that it was a vampire. I don't know if it was Vlad, but it could have been. If anything, that's going to be the model.
You know, in the Realm Gate Wars, they go into that character quite a bit without actually saying who he was, but he studied underneath. No, I don't think. If it's the guy that was in the Realm Gate Wars box set, then no, that character wasn't a vampire in his past life. He worked in some kind of undead library, basically, is what he did.
Right. Wasn't one of the Realm Gate Wars? Didn't they find a vampire, and that was the whole story?
They team up. They team up with a vampire. In fact, that dude goes and finds that vampire, and they get him to help.
Yeah, that was really cool. I love that character.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was. I'm not even going to spoil it, but the Realm Gate War books, the audio books I listened to, they were brilliant. They were quite short, but they were awesome.
They're amazing. I've got them on Audible, and unfortunately not the entire range is out, which is quite frustrating. So I keep waiting and hoping that they actually release the rest of them on Audible.
They're quite dark, aren't they?
Pretty dark. I really enjoyed them. And Jack's just actually signed up to my Audible account on his phone, and he's just started going through them all as well. He's really enjoying it. By the way, Jack has managed to pretty much finish. I think he's got 4 Ogre Riders to do, and his entire Beastclaw army is finished. So he's just doing the riders on 2 of the big dudes. So the 4, they've got 2 riders each. The Stonehorn and the he's just nailed it. Typical of him. Doesn't do anything for like 6 months and then just bangs an army out. Right, okay then, what else have we got going off? They've announced the box set. It's going to be the same price as, if I can't remember it now, Dark Imperium. So we're looking at £95 for that wonderful box set of fun.
Bargain at that.
A bargain. At the same time, we've got a new combat gauge and scenery dice and objective markers, all of which we saw at Warhammer Fest, actually. And I have to say, the objective markers, particularly the floating rock that's chained down to the ground, that's one of those really, really clever bits of sculpting. Because obviously the chains aren't really holding it down to the ground. The chain are holding the rock up in the air. But there's something your brain does when you see a piece of terrain like that. You just go, wow, it's floating. We've also got the combat gauge, which is designed not to destroy models. So it weighs about 1/3 of the original.
I like the weighty metal one. At least we've still got those.
We've still got them. And then, of course, it goes without saying, we've also got the Malign Sorcery set coming out, which I think, if I remember right with the rumours, that's about the same price as a Start Collecting set. So we're probably looking at about 50 quid for, I think, that pretty much, from what I can see, that's not only the rules, that's the models for about 50 quid. What do you think to that?
I think that's an insane price. I was thinking that alone was going to be £100 when you look at how many spells are included in there.
Yeah.
I told Rachel and her eyes lit up when I told her, oh, yes, you can pick your lore, and you've got every single one of the realms worth of laws to pick from, just like it was in 8th edition fantasy. And guess what? You've got a load of artifacts as well to choose from. And she was just like, so much choice. And then I just had visions of 4-hour magic sessions again, which is just not looking forward to that again.
Well, we talked about our hopes and expectations then. So one of your expectations is that Rachel's going to go insane on the magic phase again, yeah?
Oh, I'm not going to play many games of Age of Sigmar against Rachel. Basically, I can't do 3-hour sessions just on the magic phase. Just can't do it.
Do you think we could teach her some like restraint? Do you think that's possible?
Well, I'm hoping most of it's in the army list stage, so she knows what spells she's picking, and she can spend those 3 hours before we even leave the house, knowing what like spells she's got, and then we go and we play the game, and it's not going to be deliberate. Like, oh, which one of these 6 spells do I want to cast this time?
Well, we were talking earlier just before we went live about cheat sheets, and I think Rachel, after playing the tournament with her, Rachel's definitely somebody who benefits from cheat sheets because she has those kind of stacking tactics and abilities set up, of which, as you've just said, is going to be tenfold now. And it did really help with the pace of the game to simply go, right, I need to do this, this, and this, and and have those cascading actions already mapped out. So that was pretty cool. And I've been working on a few cheat sheets for the armies, and what I think I'm going to do is upload them to the website as well. Although I'm going to make one slight amend. What I'm going to do is leave the detail on of like what powers are in effect at what term for each faction, but I am going to remove the actual rule, because what I've done is typed out all the +1 to save, etc, etc. I'm just going to pull that off because I don't think it's fair and I don't think it's right for us to be distributing rules, but that means I've done at least 2/3 of the work for people if they wanted to pull that cheat sheet down and use it for their armies as well. So we'll stick those up on the website. Pink, I'm looking at an image of the releases at the moment, and at the back of that is a great big bolt thrower. I'm sure it's got a new fancy la-di-da name, but back in the day when I was a young man, we simply called that a bolt thrower. What's your thoughts on that?
So I'll be really interested to see how these come out in points, because they've actually released the rules for these. And whilst I think that you could get a Lord Ordinator, which was the one that came out with the malign importance to buff them, it means then you're sort of stacking more points on top of points. So it's got 2 firing modes. It can fire a long range shot, but then only gets 1 shot. Or at half range, which is 18 inches, it can fire 4, but then it's more unreliable. It's only hitting on 5s. It could be good, but in order to be better than just taking some Judicators, it's got to be fairly cheap, I think, because it also Judicators fill out your battle line, which is quite nice.
So you're thinking you probably need about 5 of those at the back of the table to make a difference.
Let's see how many points there are first.
I'm surprised at the 5 to hit. That doesn't make sense for those guys. Could be a typo at this stage. What do you think? Maybe we've not seen the actual final piece yet, have we? But
no, I mean, if they fire the one accurate shot, it hits on 3s. But then again, it's that's the same as Judicator unit, and actually the Judicator Prime hits on 2s. So, and if it's firing against Chaos, they re-roll 1s.
Yeah. So
I'm failing to see how this is going to be better than the standard bowmen. But it all comes down to points.
Exactly. We got a few comments in here. Amit is saying, did you notice Green Skins was listed as a force of order in the start collecting sets in June's White Dwarf? I did. I'm not taking that to heart. There's no way green.
That one I've seen about 4 times. Apparently, it's just a printing error.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. There's no way Greenskins are a force of order ever.
No.
Dipimus Maximus says they're not real elves. They've got wood. Hugh. A nice one. Skegatron says, don't forget the Daughters of Cain. Of course, another elf faction. I can't believe I did forget that, actually. In fact, elves have had quite a lot of love. First we had Sylvaneth, then we had Cain, and now we've had Ideneth. So, but quite rightly so.
Stop it. If I wasn't waiting for Tyrion and Malarian, I would have done Marathi, I think. I don't think I'd have done Ideneth. They're not... Overall, I don't like the aesthetics of the army as much as I'm going to be liking... I love Marathi's army more than Ideneth. I'm ranking the elves first. So I think it's going to be Malarian, Tyrion, Marathi, and then Ideneth. And actually, before Ideneth, Wanderers, even the old models, I prefer.
Jack's already worked on his 1,000 point, 1,500 point, and 2,000 points of the Marathi elves. So he's with the Daughters of Cain. He's pretty excited about those now, including a rather clever colour and my wonderful brother as well, who's got some really cool terrain. has donated them all to go with Jack's army as well. So we're going to have some really nice terrain pieces to go with them as well.
Nice.
I think he's doing those next. Actually, I think that's his plan. He's trying to get these finished. He's got one unit of flesh eater courts to do, and then he was going to get onto those. Was his plan?
So what you're telling me is both you and Jack are going to have an elf army before I am.
So you acknowledge Sylvaneth for an elf army, so
they've got more elves in it than I currently have in any army. So.
Scott is suggesting that Games Workshop's new colour should be salmon pink. And
we need more pink colours actually to be fair to the range.
He's suggesting that actually the WGO community lobby Games Workshop. So good luck with that one. If we're going to do that though, can we also do Soul Glow as one of the paints as well? So because I love the Soul Glow from. I can't even remember what film it's from, but I just love that. Okay, Tyrion's daughter was sacrificed for not eating her broccoli. I think we've lost it a bit in the chat. Daryl says, in the novels, he was promised by Nagash that his beloved soul would be released. His beloved's soul would be released to him if he came back. Heavily implied he was Vlad. Oh, so this is Ionis Cryptborn, and his name is Lord Relictor. There you go. So that is the character I'm talking about. So maybe I've misunderstood all of that stuff. But like I say, there is a section in the Realm Gate books where he goes back to his old mentor, stewing away in a library of wonderful knowledge, if you like, but in the land of the dead. So but then again, I am by no means an expert of the history of the Age of Sigmar. I'm just a fan of the audiobooks. Chaos Sponge said audiobooks are great, but made me want to repaint my Stormcast to Hallowed Knights. I'm not surprised, they're amazing in that. Ralph says Malign Portents 13 models plus book £50. Yeah, I think that's good. They're big models. They're not small models, are they? Especially the purple Conquer. That's huge. I love that spell, by the way. I think it's amazing. I think it looks really.
A little bit annoyed that there's so much focus around Magic playing the Carajons because it's basically going to be useless for me unless I ally in some Stormcast, some of the new Stormcast priests.
You never thought you'd say that, did you? Oh, ally in Stormcast to get my Magic cast.
Although, who was it that said? It might have been Aaron Dembski-Bowden.
Yeah.
I've been chatting to him while I was away on holiday, and he's been quite funny actually. But I think I was saying about Magic. I can't remember if it was him or not. Somebody said about utilizing all of the gold. That's what the Karajan Overlords do. Is they utilize gold in every way. So that is a way to get around the Stormcast. Like basically, they're gold. So you just use them for their spell casting. And it was still okay to use them in Carajons. That was the way around it, fluff-wise.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Everybody loves gold. So
you're just a piece of gold that casts magic.
You're just a walking piece of gold. We'll take that.
So I apologise if it was somebody else. I can't remember though. Without going back through all my conversations.
Amit says the cheat sheets I did for the tournament was a great aid, so excellent. Well, that's cool because they're definitely helpful for me. I will put them up on the website. Like I say, I'm going to strip out the rules though, and chances are, come the General's Handbook 2018, we'll probably see a rule change anyway. Coleman says that Stormcast artillery made my dwarf ones laugh their crews off, so there you go. Owen Jackson says, cool, weighing up whether it's worthwhile buying the box and splitting up or just getting the book.
I'd buy it and split it.
I'd buy it. If there's only one of the factions you want in there, buy it anyway. It's definitely worth it, I think, from my perspective. Super cool. £95. It's probably one of those things that there's enough. It's probably each one of the factions is probably more than that when they get released separately.
Individually, yeah. I mean, if I wasn't doing the Carajons, I would have easily done either faction and probably got 2, maybe even 3 boxes worth of the stuff and just made a big army of them.
I was tempted to do the Nighthaunt guys because that's one of those, as Sam would say, a psh psh done army. So I just hit them with the airbrush from about 5 yards away and have them like that time I did at 3,000 points of Sylvaneth in 3 days. I think I could probably get the Nighthaunts done really quick, but I'm not sure. I don't think so. I want to get my I'm really, really close. I'm going to show this on screen, actually. I'm really close. Can all of you see that? That's my massive tray of Fire Slayers. They're the last remaining Fire Slayer infantry to be done. And as you can see, there's 30 on bases there, and there's just a few characters to finish off. And then I've got two magma drops to do, and I'm done, basically. That's 3,500 points of those guys until they get the points reduction, and then I'll be crying. But so from there, I'm going to take some 40 time out for a bit of 40k and get some Gene Stealer cults done. And then I think I'm going to come round full circle and hopscotch Caradron Overlords, because I know that Sam's working on that. And I think I'm going to go into Ideneth, I think we've just had a donation, actually. So, Carl, although annoyingly enough, the notification hasn't come up on screen, and I don't know why, but Carl, thank you very much. That's a £10 donation. Thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated.
I'm going to go on Streamlabs and see if it said anything.
If you can find the comment, Sam, that would be amazing. Thank you. Right, okay, what we've got in here then. I think there's a comment here. Owen Jackson says, what's everybody's expectation for the core rulebook price? Good point. I don't think they've mentioned that at all, the price being available on its own. But yeah, as well, Ralph's just said, or I think, yes, same as the 40k rulebook. That's probably a fair starting point, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's about £40 though, isn't it? £45 for the rulebook?
That seems expensive. I mean, maybe I'm looking at the box as a whole and thinking 40 quid's too expensive, but that's just because of how good of a bargain the box is, maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
You used to only get the small version of the rulebook, didn't you? Is this the full-blown proper book?
Same as Dark Imperium.
Yep, this is a full-blown book now. So there is a post on the website, which is the preview of the core rulebook. And as you can see, if that's spine, and I know that's a digital representation of what the final book would look like, that's not a photograph. We can spot a bit of virtual reality when it's in front of us. But the spine of that book does look pretty chunky. I don't think they give a page count, actually. Which in the...
There'll be loads of fluff. I'm so excited for the fluff.
Yeah, I think that's what they say. So it breaks down into a bunch of core sections here. We've got, the classic collecting, painting, and playing. That kind of front end section, which is, the introduction to the hobby. We've got a complete retelling of the story of the Mortal Realms, from the origins in the Age of Myth through to the devastation of the Age of Chaos, into the Age of Sigmar, Realmgate Wards, and the Seeds of Hope.
Sweet. I've just found the donation comment. So, it's from Carl M, and he says, been away for a while. Good to be back. Good to have you back.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks a lot, Carl.
Star. We've got a few... Actually, I'm going to jump off my recap of the book because we do have a few people in the chat I want to catch up on. So, Ralph says if Sam wants to play elves, he should give Lord of the Rings a go. Oh, don't start him on a new army.
I can't do more than 2 systems. I'm struggling with 1.
What else? Soul Glow was from Coming to America. Thank you very much, Chaos Sponge, and Amit also for telling me where the random thoughts drifting around my head should be. It should also be a glow-in-the-dark paint. The first Games Workshop glow-in-the-dark special effects paint. Ralph says he's found someone that will take the Night off me as he's playing Stormcast. I dare say there'll be lots of people snatching up those Nighthawk models. They're absolutely beautiful. Coleman says, to Sam, you'll still get to control the endless spells on the table and you can still unbind. So there you go. You do get to control them, Sam, if you go second in the turn.
Yeah, but it's not the same as casting magic. I mean, I can see what you mean. When you say you can still unbind, that's fine, but it's not as... when a whole new focus on an edition is around magic being so cool, and the best you can do is just unbind it. It's like, yeah, stop, you're having fun. Yeah. It's not as cool as casting really cool big fireballs and blowing things to pieces. I get vessels. So.
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. I did play a game of Age of Sigmar against Jack, and the particular powers I took and everything was really, really effective of shutting Jack's army down, and it was quite fun and cruel to just go, oh, you're going to do that, are you? No, you can't. And it was there is something about that quite satisfying. I think that should appeal to you, Sam, to be honest.
Well, you say I can still unbind. I can't unbind as well as the magic armies out there.
No,
like,
that's
look
true.
at Zinch and Death at the tournament. If you went up against them and you weren't casting magic, they just had free reign. That was the difference. Whereas I could put some. I'm probably not even going to put any unbinding in the army. I might put a little bit because it's going to be so heavily focused in this edition. But I like the big sky ships, so I'm going to put as many of those in as I can now. And they're probably going to be like dirt cheap because I'm going to fill my boats. That'll be good.
Oh, your
Well,
boats are
Sam,
so
you
cool.
were talking about Wanderers earlier. Have you seen on the Elf faction focus, one of the things they've got is that they can, once per game, get an automatic unbinding, which would be pretty good versus some of the nasty Zinch stuff.
It's like a dispel scroll from
Yeah.
old edition. That's really cool. I'm sure there was another army that had that, but it might have been on a 4 or more. You automatically dispel.
Khorne's got something like that where you've got it's an artifact you can take that makes you resistant to spells.
Is it the color
and
of
you can
Khorne?
expend it
That's
in
what
order
we've
to
had.
like, unbind something.
Was it the color of Khorne?
No, I think it's a rune. I want to say.
Oh, I know we're talking about Age of Sigmar and everything, but we are, Phil's been getting me into 40k or telling me I should play 40k, which I should do really. And I was reading up while I was away on holiday. I was trying to read some 40k novels to get me into it, and I read, what's his name, Khan, Eater of Worlds.
Yep,
I don't know. Have either of you read it before?
I have. Yeah, well, I've listened. I think that's on audiobook. It's not a big book, that is it?
It was for me. It took me still a few days to read. I was quite proud that I finished it, but it was awesome. Khan is such a cool character, and the World Eaters are brilliant. I love how back and forth they are. The story was great. I loved how it ended up, but it was like even the human that was in there was a brilliant character, and I could see myself doing an army based. There's a really cool character as well in like a dreadnought armor, a World Eater, and I think his name was like Yarig or something, or Yarrick, and he's like this giant new style dreadnought. So this is set after 30k, but it's got all these extra cables and arms coming off around him, and he's basically telling this Terminator, the Kadare or whatever, they lose it basically when they start to go a little bit. The butcher's nails dig into their head too much, and then they just lose it, and they get encased in this armor, this Terminator armor, which effectively makes them it's prison. And this
like
big dreadnought.
Butchers from 30k.
That was it, yeah, the Red Butchers. And this dude's just snarling and getting really angry and stuff. And this dude in the dreadnought armor just walks up and is like, "You'd be dead if it was up to me. I don't even want you to be alive. I'd kill every single one of you in these prison cells." But he was such a cool character, and I'm glad they went into so much detail because I want to make those characters now in 40k. That just reminded me because you said Khorne. That was your fault, Pink. Sorry.
Well, I'm like, you know what? I think that would be a great 40k army as well. It would definitely be a good 40k army. There's some cool models amongst that range.
And there's an Emperor's Children character in that book as well who was amazing. Like, it reminded me of Sephiroth from Final Fantasy, and I was thinking while I was reading it, I could do an Emperor's Children army based on this. And then I got reminded of the rest of the Emperor's Children, how they've got all those like leather jackets and fetishes and things, and it was like not really into that side of Slaanesh. I like the really clean armored precise sword skill and all that sort of stuff, and just being perfect at everything. I like that side of Emperor's Children, but when they start like just focusing on lipstick and makeup and chains and things, it's like yeah, I'm not as into them anymore.
Well, as Slaanesh would most likely say, each to his own. Ralph says, I wonder what will happen to the skirmish rule set. Not sure. I'm sure they'll sort it out, though. I'm pretty much guaranteed, because I think we'll see, the small skirmish games. Although we do have, of course, Shadespire and all the rest, which I know isn't skirmish, but you do have a few of those crossover games going off, don't you, as well? But I'm sure it'll be there. I noticed that in Jack's Daughters of Cain battle tome, there was the rules you needed for the Warlord escalation thing. What's it called? The Tale of Warlord.
Path to Glory.
Path to Glory. Thank you very much. So yeah, that was interesting to see that. Have I missed something there? Has all the recent battle tomes had the Path to Glory info in?
Yeah, so everyone can basically they did a bunch in General's Handbook, so a lot of those armies could do Path to Glory, and then when they brought out a new faction, they included the tables so that
Right.
those factions could take part as well. I think it's good. I think one thing that works really well for is the actual stores, like even the Games Workshop stores. They're an amazing way to get a local group buying stuff because everyone rolls on the table. I mean, one way of doing it is you have a big collection of everything and you build your army around what you roll. So you can do it that way. But the way that I think Games Workshop intends it to be played is you turn up, you all agree to start a faction, and then you each roll on the table in front of the rest of the group, and then purchase your box, and then build it, and then come back the next week, and you start building up a force and doing it like that. But obviously that's just random, and you'll get units that you won't necessarily include in your army, which is part of the reason why you play that, so that you try stuff out that you wouldn't normally put in there because it's not optimal. So
Yeah.
I do kind of like it because it forces you to try new stuff out.
Yeah. I suppose it works in the same way as the card games where you have to kind of buy the random pack, isn't it? And you just play with what you get. Which, like you say, it makes you challenge yourself, doesn't it? You might not get the optimal unit, but you've just got to give it a go. And I think over time you can make up for it, because by the time you get to the end of those things, you've pretty much got a well-rounded force, haven't you? Usually, they're built to escalate that way. Ralph says the core rulebook is 320 pages, 60 pages more than the 40k rules, which is insane. That's going to be a big old book.
Filled with fluff, I think, mainly. I think the rules are going to be still quite streamlined. I think the bulking of that is going to be pictures and story, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And they said maps, didn't they? They said a real focus on this was they recognised before they built these worlds, but apart from sort of saying you're in these planes of existence, no one really kind of had a feeling of where they were, or what the importance was.
Yeah, so no one cared.
Yeah. So I think that'd be a really great addition to it.
Okay.
I'm focusing more on fluff than anything at the moment. So in the past, I wouldn't have cared in the slightest. Like, I genuinely just picked up a rule book when I used to play, and I'd just skip the first third of the book, if not the first half of the book, get to the rules and start playing. Whereas now I'm kind of reading through from the start of the book, and then I flick to the rules at the end and go, oh, maybe that unit wouldn't work. But it sounds so cool in the story, so it's going to have to go in there somewhere anyway.
You do realise the more fluff you read in a battle tome, the thicker your beard gets, Sam. That's how it works.
In that case, I'll keep reading.
Chaos Sponge says Warhammer TV Stormcast Episode 5 have some info on the box contents, including the core rulebook. So cool, we'll check that out. I'm a few episodes behind on Stormcast. It's a good show though, I really enjoy it. Whereas AD's looking forward to the Nighthawk battle tome as well as the new paints, and Al Kirkham's got to go because he's got company over from New York and he can't be rude. So bye Al. Catch that. I think he may have already gone because that was a few minutes ago, but we'll say goodbye just in case he catches up on the last of the show. Coleman says, I love the fact that I can chuck my Rune Lords in now and deny the fun to someone who got all excited about the new magic.
Nice guy.
12 Neef is in there. Skirmish won't be changing much according to Games Workshop. They'll be giving us new scenarios. Not sure which book it will be in, but I think they've said it's going to be separate. I think that's mentioned somewhere else as well. And Wargaming for Fun says, hi guys, enjoy the broadcast. Thanks. Well, welcome and thank you for joining us, Wargaming for Fun. Which, by the way, that's the best reason to wargame as well. So yeah, you've got that sorted. I got a bit Wargamer excited, didn't I, just before the show? I was on our group chat just shouting Wargaming at everybody, just psyching myself up for the new Age of Sigmar, and also psyching myself up for finishing my Gene Stealer cults off as well. I'm going to have some machine-making frenzied fun, and I'm going to do a few models that I can't even actually play as part of the army as well, because I just want to do them for the conversion's sake and have some fun with them. So I definitely want to do my powerlifting Imperial Knight. And I know I can't feature an Imperial Knight with GSC, but who cares? I'm going to do it anyway and do a few sort of narrative-based games because it'll be fun. Because that's the one thing GC the cults need. They need an Imperial Knight to help them out. I'm sure you guys would agree with that.
Can't wait.
I love that you're using an Imperial Knight, what's supposed to be this like revered relic of the Dark Ages of technology, and you're using it to lift boxes.
Well, Mr. Pink, if you'd read the fluff of the Imperial Knights, that's how they all started off. They were essentially heavy lifters for the they were heavy lifters for all of the colonies. And as time went on, they got re-kitted away from their farming equipment and were kitted to be war machines to protect them. So, yeah. Indeed,
that's what every human faction does, is they start farming with tools and then think, how can we use this to kill something?
Well, if you've seen any Frankenstein movie where the mob come at him with a pitchfork, then that's pretty much covered. It's designed for removing hay, also good for removing the undead. Daryl says you should give Night Lord's trilogy by ADB a read. Absolutely dynamic novels. There you go. You seconding that?
I've got it already. I've got the trilogy. I started reading it, but the problem is I've done them. I said this to Elstonation while I was away, because he's convinced that he's going to get me to collect up Night Lords again, which probably will happen. And I need to catch up on his show, actually. He said he was going to trying to convince me into it. But the reason I'm not reading the trilogy again now is because it will make me start doing them again, and I want to do something new. As amazing as Night Lords are, I need to play something different, I think.
Okay. So we'll look forward to the Night Lords.
God damn it.
A few people telling me I'm so rusty. Of course, Nagash has Path to Glory. So does Ideneth. In my defence, I'm reading the Ideneth battle tome, but I'm being incredibly disciplined. I've started on page 1, and I am going to read it from front to back. And at the moment, based on time available to me around work and doing stuff for the channel and everything else and looking after dogs, I've made it as far as page 5. So no Path to Glory yet as far as page 5, but I am getting into the fluff side of the Ideneth Deepkin. They are a very, very cool faction. So expect me to start to pay some attention to those.
Oh, no.
What have you done, Sam?
I'm so frustrated.
Oh.
So I'm trying to build these, what are they called? The women from Necromunda. What are they called?
Escher
gang, and I'm converting them to use them as the Thunderers for Caradron. So
Thunderers, yeah.
Yeah, I'm chopping the arms up and I'm gluing them all together, and they only come with so many parts, and I've just chopped off the perfect arm, got it to work with this grenade launchery thing, and then dropped it in a mound of super glue, which I just cleared at the end of my super glue, so now it's destroyed. Now I'm gonna have to repurpose another arm.
I've got some super glue removers, Sam. Just take it out.
If I'm doing it, I'll just do it now. I'll just find another arm, and I can't wait. I'm impatient. Thank you though.
All right, no worries. Okay, what else? Daryl says, also, Sam, I always saw Slanesh as excess in its purest form. I used to have Plague Marines as obese Marines whose vice was gluttony. Rubrics were on mind-altering drugs, etc. That's not a bad idea, actually.
No,
just any old excess. 12 Neef. Exactly what I said. Hopefully something will be included in the core rules. And Coleman says the rules booklet is now 18 pages. There are some pictures and a lot of FAQ errata stuff is now included. Awesome. I'd like to think there's no errata in a re-release of a new version. And we could just start with FAQ stuff, but that would be cool anyway. Elstonation, Sam, you only have one Chaos Legion you want to do. So I don't know what he means by that, but there you go.
Night Lords, obviously.
For a powerlifter, use the Grey Knight Dread Knight, suggested Amit as well. But you could do that, but I do have a spare Imperial Knight, so which I bought a long time ago. So
that reminds me, I need to, once I decide which faction to do for 40k, I might need to use my Knight at some point. Because you can do Chaos ones, can't you? Renegade Knights.
You can do Renegade Knights, that's true. Although there is a Renegade Knight with a special sprue and everything, but you wouldn't do that anyway, would you? You just go off and do crazy stuff. Terminator armor was developed to clean plasma conduits of engines in spaceships, so not unheard of. There you go. I'm pretty confident of my Imperial Knight fluff because I was actually just reading the latest release information about it, and it reminded me of it. So yes, they did indeed start off as farming equipment, or the big chainsaw blade was used, for instance, for clearing trees out the way and those kind of things. Drop the arm in some isopropanol. Let it sit there and it will remove most of the superglue, says Ralph. There you go. Have you got any isopropanol on you, Sam?
I've only got that little bottle you gave me for cleaning my brushes.
Okay, listen, we are at 5 minute 2, and I know that Mr. Pink has only got 5 minutes left. We've caught up on the chat. Should we do one last closing thought for everyone, putting you all on the spot? What's your hope, if you like, for the new edition then? Can you sum that up as one thing? What's the main thing you're looking for, Mr. Pink? And by the way, can I just mention, if nobody's seen Pink's Stormcast on a massive dragon, go check out the Facebook group. And have you put it up on the forum yet?
No, I've been a bit of a forum lurker, but not a poster yet. I'm going to have to set myself up on there. Because
that's incredible. That's amazing work. I think somebody else posted up that's some of your best painting, if not your best painting so far. So I just think it's beautiful. So congrats on that. Right, your hopes for the new edition.
I think I just really want a sort of a well-balanced playset. I thought that Age of Sigmar was pretty good in that regard anyway, so hope we get more of the same, really.
Yep. And Sam?
If I had to pick one thing, it would be that it doesn't become too complex. But what I mean by that is it's still easy enough to play, because I like how easy it is to play Sigmar at the minute, but it is quite hard to master, and I hope that it stays the same and it doesn't just become more and more rules and you have to read all of the factions in order to compete properly. And that's pretty much it, because I think they've done everything else right. I think they're going in the right direction with everything.
I mean, it is interesting. We've seen the rulebook move from 4 pages to 18 pages, but as it was said earlier in the chat, hopefully that's a lot more explanation, a lot more illustrations about movements, about piling, those kind of things. That's something we talked about in last week's chat. So some more sort of descriptive work around how the rules work. But you're right. I think you're both kind of right. I hope it remains balanced. I hope it remains quick and easy to play. That's my concern, is that over time, the kind of attrition of additional rules and special rules just, take over and we end up with a very complex system. I hope they keep focused and keep it playing quickly. That's the main thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Which, there's no sign of that not happening at the moment. I think we can still pick up an Age of Sigmar game at a pretty big size and get through that in 2-3 hours. Even if it's a table full of miniatures, you can still do that in 2 or 3 hours, which I think ideally is about the length of a game you want, really, isn't it? At that, the full size.
My games are going to be so quick with Caradrons, they'll either win quick or they'll lose quick. I'm basically going to land on the table and then something will happen. Something will die and it'll either be me or you. So I'm looking forward to that.
One last thing for Pink. Stormcast Eternals. Obviously you get to add wizards to them now. Are we going to see that addition to your Star Drake?
Oh, definitely. Especially because the Star Drake himself actually, you can increase or decrease wizards' casting rolls around him. So it's going to be a nice little bit of a magic buffer, I think. Well, as long as the rules have stayed the same. But I don't think we've seen any instances yet of existing units changing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely bringing some magic in.
So when we've got the new rule sets in our grubby hands, are we going to see that Star Drake on a table sometime soon? Is that finished?
Yep, yeah, he's good to go.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to facing it.
It's an amazing paint job. You've done really well on it, and I'm quite proud how much attention you've spent on it, because normally you take your time, but with that one you've properly invested a lot of time and effort to make it perfect. So you've
Sam's going to land his little boat and just blow it up.
That's going to be that's the task, and basically one of our shiny models are going to die and we don't know which.
Yep.
Couple of last points then. Fellhate says, I'm building 2 Imperial Knights but need another set of transfers to do the house I want. So bad the Renegade box comes with only 1 sheet. So if there's anybody out there who hasn't used their transfer sheet, message Fellhate through the Facebook group. That would be nice of you. Daryl says, seconded, the Star Drake is gorgeous pink. You've done an amazing job.
Oh, thanks, Daryl.
Johnny Rockstar says, I hope Age of Sigmar can realign the stars, thereby instilling world peace and saving famine. as we enter the dawning age of Aquarius. Thanks, Johnny. That's wonderfully hippie of you. That's amazing, mate. Cheers. And failing that, some new elf factions would be good. Right, I tell you what, I think we've kind of just had, as I said, tonight was always going to be just a catch up. Sam's been on holiday. He's getting back to his hobby desk, as you can see, so I expect to see more amazing human faction sky fleets coming off of Sam's hobby desk. Hopefully Mr. Pink Stardrake will make a battle report soon, and we'll have the rules in our grubby hands, and we can start filming some battle reports for the channel as well, so you can see us all bending our heads around the new version and wondering why having a faction without magic is or isn't a good thing. You know what? I'm not worried about having no magic in my Fire Slayers. They don't need magic. It doesn't stop them anyway. They just march through everything, so I'm not worried.
We can do dwarf versus dwarves, but mine are going to be taller dwarves.
Tall dwarves. Okay, Amit's doing the wonderful bit saying thank you very much for coming along. If you want to support us, you can become a premium member on the website. It's just $2.99 a month for exclusive access to some awesome content. Thank you very much, Amit. You're a star, mate, directing people onto that. It's always good when people support us. It enables us to do more and more and more, so that's all great stuff. And it means we can kind of spend more time on the channel and keeping on top of our content as well. So thank you to everybody for your support. Thanks to Carl for the donation tonight. That's much appreciated, sir. And we shall wish you all a good night, and hope the rest of the week is fruitful and successful for everyone. And by the weekend, we can all be hitting that pre-order button and getting pretty excited. All right. See you all then. Good night.
Bye.
Bye, guys.